The latest stories and updates from across the nation and beyond. I'm Batsirin Namshar. On the news Mongolia today. JICA supports Nima's Dzut decontamination efforts. An event was held in Australia to introduce children to the Mongolian language, history and culture. Mongolia and China conduct joint army drills in the Gobi. For the news, stay tuned. Japan International Cooperation Agency has provided the National Emergency Management Agency with essential materials and equipment to support the disposal and decontamination of animal carcasses following severe weather conditions known as Dzut.
In a ceremony held on May 13th at Nima's headquarters, JICA officially handed over essential resources. The event was attended by the ambassador of Japan and Nima authorities, highlighting the strong collaboration between the two organizations to address disaster response challenges.
In recent months, Mongolia has faced unprecedented challenges due to Dzut, with a staggering 7.4 million livestock lost to this natural disaster. The scale of this loss underscores the urgency of our response efforts. Despite these daunting circumstances, Nima has been relentless in its commitment to mitigating the effects of Dzut. Through coordinated efforts, we have intensified decontamination operations across the affected regions, establishing 1,300 decontamination points to address widespread contamination caused by animals' carcasses. The scope of this disaster is immense, with an estimated 2.2 million square kilometers of our nation's territory affected by Dzut. The eastern regions have borne the brunt of this catastrophe, experiencing exceptionally high livestock mortality rates.
The materials provided by JICA include 1 ton of disinfectants, 250 Automax automatic sprayers, and 7,000 units of protective clothing. These resources will be used for the disposal and disinfection of carcasses in rural areas affected by Dzut-related disasters and complications. These initiatives highlight JICA's commitment to leveraging its official development assistance to help countries build resilience against natural disasters by providing crucial support for decontamination efforts. JICA hopes to mitigate the impact of Dzut events and safeguard public health and safety.
Mongolians living abroad strive to preserve their native language, heritage, history and traditions for their children. For the second year, the Mongolian Youth Association in Australia has partnered with Mongolian schools to promote the preservation of the native language and culture. Children who grow up abroad often risk forgetting their native language and culture, so organizing an awareness day is vital.
Our children living abroad are at risk of becoming disconnected from their Mongolian heritage and native language. To ensure that they remain connected to our culture and history, we organize this activity every year. I've been in Australia for over a year. Today, I plan to introduce the Mongolian script to the children and deliver a presentation. Additionally, I will be showcasing the horsehead fiddle to promote Mongolian heritage. Above all, I want to emphasize the importance of the Mongolian language. No matter where you study or live, never forget your Mongolian language. Furthermore, I encourage everyone to learn to play the horsehead fiddle, explore the national Mongolian script, and engage in activities that promote Mongolian heritage. When I think about Mongolia, the first things that come to mind are its stunning landscapes and unique wildlife. I deeply miss all aspects of Mongolia.
We have lived in Australia for about 7 years. When I think of Mongolia, I picture snow and mountains in my mind, something you don't see here. The animals in Mongolia are beautiful and I enjoy riding horses. Now let's take a look at Mongolia's current affairs.
Mongolian and Chinese troops held an opening ceremony for a joint army training in Mongolia's Dorongov province on Sunday. This activity is a joint training aimed at strengthening strategic mutual trust and practical cooperation between the two militaries, focusing on how to combat the activities of illegal armed groups and adding positive momentum to regional peace and stability. The Chinese participating troops were chosen mainly from the armored forces of Brigade under the Chinese People's Liberation Army 79th Group Army, encompassing fire assault, operational support, logistics support, and other specialized forces, CCTV said. The Chinese and Mongolian troops were expected to set up a command center to carry out joint planning, tactics research, and targeted training on actual military operations.
Now let's take a look at the currency exchange rates provided by Mongol Bank. Now let's take a look at international news from our partner agencies. Georgia's parliament greenlit a final vote on a proposed law that critics see as a threat to media freedom and the country's aspirations to join the European Union on Monday, a day after police dispersed the latest protest against it.
The bill would require media and non-governmental organizations and other non-profits to register as pursuing the interests of a foreign power if they receive more than 20% of their funding from abroad. The opposition denounces the bill as the Russian law because Moscow uses similar legislation to crack down on independent news media, non-profits, and activists critical of the Kremlin. The bill is nearly identical to one that the governing Georgian Dream Party was pressured to withdraw last year after street protests.
Do you have comments, inquiries or propositions? If you don't have comments, inquiries or propositions, let's put the issue to a vote. Who is in favor of the proposed text? Thank you. The majority of the attendees, the project is supported. The committee session is over.
What we are observing now is a typical Russia. So not only the brutality of police, but also how the MPs are behaving. So the legal committee that has heard for the first time this controversial law lasted only 1 minute without presence of opposition parties. So this means that this legislation does not have legitimacy from society, and we have seen through these days how huge protests, the protests that we have not seen since independence, since 80s. So these protests will last no matter what they will do. They may bring their MPs through tunnels or through the aviation into Parliament building, but this doesn't make this law legitimate. This make this law more Russian. So that's why the protest will go on, and it will end up either with the fact that we will get rid of this law, or we will get rid of Ivanishvili's regime.
Renewed demonstrations have rocked Georgia for weeks, with demonstrators scuffling with police who used tear gas and water cannons to disperse the crowds. The government says the bill is necessary to stem what it deems as harmful foreign influence over the country's politics and to prevent unspecified foreign actors from trying to destabilize it. Huge crowds marched through Europe Square in the capital Tbilisi on Saturday, with demonstrators wrapped in Georgian and European Union flags and chanting Georgia. On Sunday, the protesters gathered in front of the parliament for an overnight rally and tried to block entrances into the building, where a committee of lawmakers were expected to discuss the bill once again on Monday. Police sought to disperse the demonstration, and by Monday morning, only hundreds remained near Parliament. Georgia's Interior Ministry said 20 people were arrested in the morning, including 3 foreign citizens, 2 Americans and a Russian. It took lawmakers less than a minute to give a green light to the third and final reading of the bill for Tuesday.
Israel's leaders commemorated Memorial Day on Monday in memory of the country's fallen soldiers and those killed in attacks, an occasion where the ongoing war in Gaza stood center stage.
The usually somber calendar event has been compounded by the sadness and simmering public anger over the failures of October 7th, when Hamas fighters from Gaza broke into southern Israel and killed 1,200 people, mostly Israelis, the act that sparked the war. During the day's opening ceremony at Mount Herzl Cemetery, on the outskirts of Jerusalem, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vowed once again to defeat Hamas, a promise he has made continually throughout Israel's brutal 7-month war with the militant group.
It's either us, Israel, or them, the Hamas monsters. It's either existence, liberty, security and prosperity, or annihilation, massacre, rape and enslavement. We are determined to win this struggle. We exacted and will exact an expensive price from the enemy for his criminal acts. We will realize the goals of victory and, at the center of them, the return of our hostages home. Victory, with God's help, will secure our existence and our future.
Israel has responded to Hamas' deadly October assaults by bombarding and invading Gaza, killing over 35,000 Palestinians from the enclave, mostly women and children, according to Gaza's health ministry, which doesn't distinguish between civilians and combatants in its figures. More than 600 Israeli soldiers have been killed since the war erupted. Among the other attendees at Mount Herzl was the Israeli President Isaac Herzog. At 11 a.m. on Monday, sirens marked 2 minutes of silence while a quadrant of 4 fighter planes then flew over Jerusalem and the surrounding area.
Mount Ibu, a volcano in Indonesia's North Maluku province, erupted on Monday, spewing thick gray ash and dark clouds 5,000 meters into the sky, officials said. After an eruption on Friday, Center for Volcanology and Geological Hazard Mitigation raised the alert level for the volcano from 2 to 3, the second highest level, which widens the radius of the area which should be vacated.
More than 13,000 people live within a 5-kilometer radius of the northern side of the crater, according to Hendra Gunovan, the chief of the center. Local authorities have prepared evacuation tents, but no evacuation order has been reported yet. Officials advised residents and tourists not to conduct any activities within 5 kilometers of Mount Ibu's crater.
Today, at 9:12 a.m. Eastern Indonesian time, there was another eruption of mother volcano where a column of smoke reached a height of 5,000 meters into the sky. Visually, we can see that there was an ejection of incandescent material, which is estimated to have fallen around a radius of 3 kilometers from the peak, with the ash now heading towards the west.
The 1,325-meter volcano is on the northwest coast of the remote island of Halmahera. Indonesia, an archipelago of 270 million people, has 120 active volcanoes. It is prone to volcanic activity because it sits along the Ring of Fire, a horseshoe-shaped series of seismic fault lines around the Pacific Ocean.
Now let's take a look at the weather forecast for Mongolia and world major cities. Well, that's all for today. Thank you for staying with us. We'll see you tomorrow with more news and updates. Goodbye.